Don't settle for a low view of God. Friends, we're at the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the search and the discovery of the glory of this man. This man is absolutely stunning. He's exhilarating. He is fascinating. He has been stunning creatures with the same word forever, and they've never gotten used to him. And I believe the greatest crisis confronting America is not what's happening in Washington, D.C. I believe it is a bored bride who does not know him and who is not in love with him. I believe that's the greatest crisis confronting the church in America, is a bored bride. And I believe that the Father's going to answer this, and he's going to release the revelation of his Son to awaken a sleeping bride, to awaken a sleeping people, to awaken a lukewarm church. The greatest miracle in the end times is not going to be stadium Christianity. It's going to be a lukewarm church coming into a radiant bride. We're going to love holiness. It's not going to be gritting of the teeth holiness. It's going to be happy holiness. It's going to be loving righteousness. You're not going to live forever wanting to do all the stuff you hate doing, but you're going to tap into the grace of God, and you're going to begin to let the grace of God flow through you and in you, and you're going to hate what he hates, and you're going to love what he loves. There's a realm called grace. There's a realm called grace on the other side of your boredom and addiction. There's a realm, but the Lord's saying, come on, come on. I want the grace of God. I want to be absorbed in the grace of God. I want to be lost in the search and the discovery of Jesus. Friends, get a big vision after this and you remove everything. When the revelation of Jesus strikes you, this is where I'm speaking tonight. When it hits you here, you reorient things. It's going to look like reorientation of your schedules. It's going to look like something. You don't bump into the deeper things of God on accident. It's not going to happen through a fire tunnel or my hand laid on you. It's not going to happen by that great podcast you love or that influencer on TikTok. You ain't going to get it. It's going to happen through lots of mostly mundane and boring times with you sitting mostly in an empty room saying, God, I want to know you for real. I don't want to live around someone else's fire. I want to get into the fire. God, I want to know you for real. I want to burn, Jesus. I want your word to go from boring into fascinating. God, I want to know you. And I don't care how messed up you are. There's nobody else he has to work with but messed up folk like us. There are no superstars. There's just people who get tired of living in the kiddie pool of Christianity and say, I'm ready to swim into the deeper things of God. And I believe he wants to baptize UpperRoom afresh with spiritual hunger for the more of God. It's time for going back to our knees for a fresh release of God to invade our house and our city and our lives. There's a door standing open in heaven. And there's a voice that's shouting over every one of you, come up here. And there's a throne set in heaven, and one sits on the throne. He's our Father, and he shines and he burns, and there's an emerald rainbow surrounding him. There's 24 thrones surrounding God's throne, and on that sits elders sitting clothed in white robes with crowns of gold on their heads. This is what you and I look like in the presence of God. No one sits in the presence of God, but you do. Lightnings, thunderings, and voices. The voice of God, the prophetic spirit is coming back to UpperRoom. It's coming back to the church. The Psalm 29, voice of the Lord that shakes the wilderness. Many of you have been content to live in your wilderness. Many of you have made concessions with addictions and you've given up a while ago. And the Lord's saying, I'm releasing my voice to shake your wilderness. I'm going to shake the wilderness. And I'm going to release streams in the desert. And I'm going to begin to activate your spirit to go to war with what I'm at war against. And to choose righteousness and to love righteousness. The voice of the Lord makes the deer give birth. There's a birthing of callings that are coming. And it breaks the cedars of Lebanon. There's breakthrough. There's 4 living creatures surrounding the throne, and they have eyes around and within. Think about that. You're going to meet these guys one of these days. Eyes around and within. And they do not rest day or night, saying, holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. They've been in the same room with the same person, singing the same word forever. They've never gotten used to him. They've never said, what are we going to do next? I want you to know, he's not the one on trial. You are. He is absolutely stunning and fascinating. And there's treasure hidden in the field that if you go and sell everything that you have and buy that field, you will experience the pleasures of knowing God and being loved by God. There is nothing greater than when God reveals God to the human spirit. There's nothing greater. I want to tell you, it's worth 3 months for 3 minutes for the Father to whisper a Bible verse to the depths of your spirit telling you about his son. I just want to put salt on your tongue tonight and awaken thirst. I want to put salt on your tongue and awaken thirst. I don't care how jacked up you are. I don't care how awesome you are. You ain't much. We're all just weak and broken people that are made for God. And Paul says, I want to know him, and I forget the things that are behind me. And I reach forward to those things which are ahead. You got to forget your failures and quit dictating the terms of your relationship with God, telling him how long you can live in spiritual timeout till you're worthy again. How prideful you really are. How self-righteous you really are to dictate terms of relationship. Instead of surrendering to what his blood says about you. You need to forget your failures and you need to forget your successes. You need to forget the memory of what you used to be because you're not on fire anymore, buddy. You need fresh fire. Many of us live drunk on yesterday's memories and it always requires, see, this is the thing about growing in the spirit of revelation. Poverty of spirit and spiritual hunger accesses the more of God. Well, that looks beggarly. And it looks like I'm desperate. And he goes, yeah, that's kind of the point. I want you to not looking awesome. Because I always love to manifest glory in Bethlehem stables. Heaven's my throne. How are you going to get my attention? On this one will I look, on him who is poor, contrite, and who trembles at my word. When you're surrounded by a billion angels, how do you get God's attention? You're in touch with how much you need him. All right, let's stand.